Hi, my name is Greg Holder, and I'm the lead pastor of The Crossing here in the St. Louis area. And it's one of my great privileges to serve with those that I love and trust. And to me, when I was asked recently to speak into your week, those of you who are serving as leaders and staff and volunteers in the technical arts, for me, it was just a no-brainer. I said, sure, I'm in. And the first thing that came to mind was something that is really, really important for us here. I know this is foundational, so for many of you this is just going to be a review, and I'll stay brief here. But the idea for us that we keep coming back to is that image that Paul gives us in places like 1 Corinthians 12, where the church functions in many ways like a body. It's a rich and profound image that we find in Scripture. One body, many parts. And the big point is this interdependence that God has built into this thing we call the church. And what a beautiful thing it is when the church is the church. Everyone using their gifts and their passions and talents and experiences and resources, all empowered by God Himself. But we bring all of this together as an act of worship. Okay, so you know this works, and you know how this works, and you've seen it work. And you know how Paul pushes on this foolish notion that some of us might consider ourselves more important than others. In fact, at one point he even says straight up that none of us can say to the other, I don't need you, because it's simply not true. We are connected. He even says if one of us suffers, so does the rest of the body, and if one part is honored, well, then every part rejoices with it. So, like I said, great thoughts from Paul that you've probably heard before. But now let me take it just a little bit further. I don't want to push this too far, but how about this? Many of the vital, life-giving parts of the body aren't all that visible, are they? I mean, think about it. Some of those parts and processes that keep the rest of this thing moving are working incredibly hard, and they are incredibly important, but in so many ways they are incredibly unseen. And to the rest of the body, they almost seem mysterious. We don't really think about or understand how much of these hidden and vital parts of our bodies work. But how foolish would it be to think that we could live without these parts? So there. You're smart people, you're making the connection. In so many ways, you are the guts of what happens at your church every week. And you and I both know how quickly some of these things would grind to a halt without you. So first of all, thank you. I'm sure you're like a lot of the folks on our team who serve passionately and in many ways anonymously. You're there long before some people arrive, and you're there long after most people leave. So first of all, thank you. Second thought, don't forget that Paul warns that we all need each other. Those more visible teams need you for sure, but let's go ahead and say you need them too. That's the beauty of all of this. Those other teams, they're probably working hard in ways you could never imagine too. So let's never forget that these many parts make up one body. That's the key. We are one. And now here's your little assignment for this week. You know the most powerful and effective way we have here of reminding each other that we are one body? Even on those crazy, too much stuff is going on weeks. Here it is. Now, sometimes we forget this, but here it is. It almost sounds too simple, but here goes. We tell stories. We tell each other about someone who's been coming or is coming this weekend for the first time. We tell each other an appropriate amount of details about a family or maybe a person who's putting the pieces of their faith together. Or maybe they're facing the challenge of a lifetime and something clicked in the service for them. It was during a song or during worship, during a video, a story, during the teach. And those of us who are not down in the guts of the service will tell stories of what we're hearing and seeing in the lobby that day. So what we do is we connect the dots for each other, how God is using all of our gifts together to do what only He can do. Oh yeah, and the tech guys and gals will tell stories to the musicians or the teachers of how they were served by that song or that point in the message, which by the way means that you guys have to allow God to feed your soul this weekend. Please make sure that you're on the receiving end of what God is doing. Anyway, what happens is this back and forth of stories where we are celebrating what God is doing. Sometimes we'll even get to the place where we tell each other that we need to hear some of those stories because it is a part of what connects us together. In a real intangible way, 1 Corinthians 12:26 gets lived out. If one part is honored, every part rejoices with it. See, we do this together. God wouldn't have it any other way. Honestly, we wouldn't have it any other way. So tell stories this week. Celebrate each other. Stay connected to those other more visible parts and sometimes let them know that you need to hear from them. And yes, to those of you who are the guts of what happens, listen to me now. You're not crazy. You're not crazy for working that hard, for thinking through all of those details. You're not crazy for doing this without big-time recognition. You're not crazy for caring this much. So thank you. Thank you for serving your staff and your church. Thank you for serving people whose names you won't even know this side of heaven. But mostly, could I just say this? Thank you for serving my King. I hope you all have a great week.